Princess Diana was the most photographed woman in the world, but behind the flashbulbs, she was playing a high-stakes legal game that the palace never saw coming. When she tragically passed away, the world assumed her massive fortune would be swallowed up by the crown. But then, her will was opened. It turns out Diana made a secret move to ensure her estate went to one specific source, a move so controversial that her own family went to court to change it. From hidden letters of wishes to a multi-million-dollar freedom fund, the truth about who actually inherited Diana's legacy is the reason why the royal family looks the way it does today. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the one person she trusted to carry on her rebellion. So, was this a mother's final act of protection, or a calculated strike against the monarchy? Stick around, because what was in that will change everything we thought we knew about the people's princess. Princess Diana's humble beginning, the childhood that built a rebel. Princess Diana entered the world on July 1, 1961, at Park House, Sandringham, in Norfolk, the fourth of 5 children born to John Spencer, Viscount Althorp, and Frances Spencer, Viscountess Althorp. She arrived into a family already woven tightly into royal history. For generations, the Spencers had moved in the same circles as the crown. Both of Diana's grandmothers had served as ladies-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Royal connections weren't something Diana would grow into. They were there from the start, but beneath the titles and traditions, there was disappointment waiting in the room. Her parents had hoped for a boy to carry on the family line, and no name was chosen for an entire week. When they finally settled on Diana Frances, it honored her mother and a distant aunt who had once been considered a potential Princess of Wales herself. Inside the family, young Diana picked up the nickname Duch, a quiet reflection of a duchess-like confidence that showed even in childhood. She was baptized that August at St. Mary Magdalene Church in Sandringham and grew up alongside her sisters Sarah and Jane and her younger brother Charles. But before Diana ever took her first breath, loss had already touched the household. An infant brother, John, had died shortly after birth, a year earlier. The pressure to produce a male heir only deepened after that, pushing her mother into humiliating medical examinations on Harley Street in London. Years later, Diana's brother would describe that period as devastating for their parents, the emotional fracture that likely led to their divorce. Diana spent her earliest years at Park House, a home leased from Queen Elizabeth II, whom Diana called Aunt Lilibet. The royal family vacationed nearby at Sandringham House, and Diana played with Princes Andrew and Edward, like any other neighborhood children. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale beginning. Inside, the ground was already shifting. When Diana was 7, her parents' marriage finally collapsed. Her mother later began a relationship with Peter Shand Kidd and remarried in 1969. During the separation, Diana lived briefly with her mother in London, but that Christmas, her father refused to let her return. With the support of his former mother-in-law, Lady Fermoy, he won custody, and Diana stayed with him from then on. Another change followed in 1976, when her father remarried Reine, Countess of Dartmouth. The relationship between Diana and her stepmother turned bitter almost immediately. Diana saw Reine as a bully, and the tension between the two was constant, raw, and unresolved. On one occasion, Diana pushed her stepmother down a staircase. Years later, Diana would describe her childhood as very unhappy and very unstable. In 1975, everything shifted again. Her father inherited the title of Earl Spencer, making Diana Lady Diana overnight. The family moved from Park House to Althorp, the Spencer seat in Northamptonshire. Now they had a new title, a new home, but the emotional turbulence followed her inside those grand walls. Her education unfolded in fragments. She began with homeschooling under her governess, Gertrude Allen, before attending Sillfield Private School in Norfolk. At 9, she was sent to Riddlesworth Hall, an all-girls boarding school near Thetford. By 1973, she had joined her sisters at Westheath Girls' School in Kent. Academics never came easily. She failed her O-levels twice. But teachers noticed something else: her kindness, her empathy, her instinct to show up for others. She received a school award for community spirit, an early sign of the compassion that would later define her public life. She left school at 16. Friends remembered her as painfully shy during those years, yet there were quiet strengths beneath it. She played piano, She excelled in swimming and diving. She studied ballet and tap dance. When words failed her, movement took over. By the mid-1970s, Diana began volunteering at a psychiatric hospital in Kent. In 1978, she worked as a nanny in Hampshire. That same year, she attended a finishing school in Switzerland, staying only one term before returning to London. There, she shared her mother's flat with two friends and began assembling adult life piece by piece. She took advanced cooking courses, worked low-paying jobs, taught dance to young people until a skiing accident forced her off her feet for 3 months. After that came playgroup work, cleaning jobs for family friends, hostessing at parties, nannying for an American family, and eventually assisting as a nursery teacher in Pimlico. In July 1979, her mother bought her a small flat at Coleherne Court in Earl's Court as an 18th birthday gift. Diana moved in with 3 flatmates and lived there quietly until February 1981. She was learning independence, learning responsibility, learning how to carry herself through adult life on her own terms. At the same time, elsewhere in royal circles, a far more complicated story was already in motion. A story shaped by unfinished love, royal expectations, and a relationship that had never truly ended. And that story was about to collide with Diana's in a way that would change all of their lives. The love triangle that broke Princess Diana. The love triangle between Princess Diana, King Charles III, and Queen Camilla remains one of the messiest, most emotionally charged royal entanglements in modern history. It didn't explode overnight. It unfolded slowly, quietly, over decades, and it started long before Diana ever entered the picture. Charles first met Camilla Shand at a polo match, in an introduction arranged by mutual friend Lucia Santa Cruz. From the very first conversation, something clicked. Charles was drawn to how Camilla smiled with her eyes as much as her mouth, how she laughed at the same silly things he did, and how she spoke to him easily, without fear or awe. She wasn't impressed by titles. She didn't fawn. She met him naturally, comfortably, like a woman who saw the man before the crown. Charles was taken immediately. After that first meeting, he began calling her constantly. But royal life doesn't pause for romance. Charles soon joined the Royal Navy, and distance crept into their relationship. relationship. At the same time, Camilla didn't meet what were then considered essential requirements for marrying the Prince of Wales. She lacked the aristocratic pedigree the palace preferred, and she wasn't a virgin. Those quiet judgments carried weight. Eventually, the relationship fractured under pressure. Camilla drifted back toward Andrew Parker Bowles, a former boyfriend she had known since the late 1960s. While Charles was stationed in the Caribbean, Camilla accepted Andrew's marriage proposal. The news devastated Charles. In letters, he poured out his heartbreak, writing that after what he believed had been a blissful and mutually happy relationship, fate had cruelly limited it to just 6 months. Still, Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles on July 4, 1973. Despite Charles pleading with her not to go through with it, the wedding didn't sever their bond. They stayed close friends, and not long after, the physical side of their relationship slowly resumed, even though Camilla was now married and had a child. Andrew was aware of the whole affair, but he didn't interfere. Those close to the situation later suggested that he chose not to make a fuss, perhaps even finding strange comfort in the fact that his wife was involved with the future king. Then, in 1977, Charles met Lady Diana Spencer. She was 16 at the time. There was no spark at first, no romance. In fact, Charles initially dated her older sister, Lady Sarah. Diana was simply part of the background, a shy teenager orbiting royal spaces without knowing she would soon be pulled straight into the center. By 1980, everything had changed. Charles saw Diana again, and this time he began viewing her differently. She was young, beautiful, untouched by scandal. She fit the royal image perfectly. Diana started accompanying him to Balmoral and Sandringham. She attended his polo matches. Camilla was sometimes there too. The press noticed, speculation exploded, and under that pressure, Charles rushed toward a proposal. In February 1981, Charles and Diana announced their engagement. The world crowned them a fairy tale couple. But cracks showed almost immediately. When asked if they were in love, Diana answered yes. Charles hesitated and replied, whatever in love meant. They had seen each other only 12 times before getting engaged. They married on July 29, 1981, in what became known as the wedding of the century. Prince William arrived in 1982, and Prince Harry followed in 1984. Later, Diana would say those early years were the closest she and Charles ever came to happiness. But those moments didn't last. Barely 5 years into the marriage, Charles and Camilla found their way back to each other. Even though both now had families, Diana knew, she felt it, and eventually, she confronted Camilla directly. Diana later revealed that she told Camilla she knew exactly what was happening between her and Charles. Camilla responded by reminding Diana that she had everything: public adoration, 2 beautiful children, and every man falling at her feet. Diana's reply cut straight through it. She wanted her husband. She told Camilla she was sorry to be in the way, that it must be hell for both of them, but she made one thing clear. She knew what was going on, and she refused to be treated like an idiot. By 1992, the affair had exploded into public view. Intimate phone recordings between Charles and Camilla leaked to the press, including the infamous Tampax conversation. Around the same time, Andrew Morton released Diana, her true story, secretly shaped by Diana herself. That December, Charles and Diana officially announced their separation. In 1994, Charles publicly admitted his infidelity and named Camilla as the other woman. Diana confirmed her own affair with writing instructor James Hewitt. Camilla later described that period as horrid, saying the press scrutiny was unbearable and that she survived only because of her family. In a moment that became legendary, Charles gave a candid television interview. That same night, Diana stepped out in a daring black dress at London's Serpentine Gallery. The world dubbed it the revenge dress. She didn't follow royal protocol. She reclaimed the spotlight. In 1995, Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles announced their divorce. That same year, Diana sat down for her explosive BBC Panorama interview and delivered the infamous "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded" line. Charles and Diana finalized their divorce on August 28, 1996. In the year that followed, Diana dated heart surgeon Hasnat Khan and businessman Dodi Fayed. Then, in 1997, everything came crashing down when Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris. Charles flew to France to bring her body home. In London, thousands lined the streets in silence, flowers in hand, mourning the woman who entered royal life as a shy teenager and left it as a global icon. 2 years later, Charles and Camilla appeared together publicly for the first time. In 2003, Camilla moved into Clarence House, and in February 2005, Charles and Camilla announced their engagement. They married on April 9, 2005, in a civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall, followed by a blessing at St. George's Chapel. The triangle was finally closed, but the damage had already been written into history. Because Diana wasn't just caught between a man and his first love, she was placed inside a system that never made room for her heart, forced to compete with a relationship that never truly ended. And that quiet imbalance is what turned a fairy tale into one of the most painful royal tragedies the world has ever watched. How Princess Diana changed the royal family without asking permission. Princess Diana had a way of doing things on her own terms. Long before she became the most photographed woman on Earth, Diana was already stepping outside royal expectations. Despite being Lady Diana Spencer, daughter of the 8th Earl Spencer, she worked in London as a nanny and nursery school teacher. That single choice made history. She became the first royal bride to ever have a paying job before her engagement. Royal women weren't supposed to earn salaries. They were meant to arrive untouched by ordinary life. Diana arrived with real-world experience. Then came the ring. King Charles III gave Diana what would become one of the most iconic engagement rings of all time, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds. But instead of commissioning a custom piece, as royal tradition demanded, Diana chose the ring straight from Gerard's catalog. She didn't wait for protocol to decide for her. She picked what spoke to her. That same ring would later be passed to Prince William, who gave it to Catherine, Princess of Wales, when he proposed. Today, Kate is rarely seen without it, a quiet reminder that Diana's choices still ripple through the next generation. But Diana's defiance didn't stop with jewelry. At her 1981 wedding, she removed the word obey from her vows. Instead, she promised to love, comfort, honor, and keep Charles in sickness and in health. It caused controversy at the time. Other royal brides would still vow obedience in the years that followed, but Diana had drawn a line. And eventually, both Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle followed Diana's lead, leaving obey out of their own ceremonies. Another quiet revolution. She redefined royal motherhood too. Until 1977, royal births happened at home, even for Queen Elizabeth II herself. Diana changed that. She and Charles introduced their newborn sons to the world outside the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital. That moment became tradition. William and Kate would later repeat it with all 3 of their children. Inside the palace, raising young royals was often left to nannies while parents carried out official duties. Diana refused that distance. She made motherhood her priority. In March 1983, she took 9-month-old William on an official tour of Australia and New Zealand, something completely unheard of at the time. She wanted her children close. She wanted them grounded. She pushed for William to attend public school, making him the first heir to the British throne to do so. She rejected royal tutors and homeschooling. She wanted him finger-painting alongside ordinary children. She wanted playgrounds instead of palace corridors. She wanted him to know life beyond privilege. She didn't stop there. Diana made sure her boys experienced what she called a normal childhood. That meant theme parks, public transportation, McDonald's hamburgers, moments that reminded them the world was bigger than titles and tiaras. While other royals kept stiff upper lips, Diana spoke openly about pain. When her marriage fell apart, she didn't hide behind palace walls. Charles and Diana separated in 1992. That same year, Diana gave an explosive interview on BBC's Panorama, laying bare the reality of her marriage. "There were 3 of us in this marriage," she said, "so it was a bit crowded," referring to Camilla. She didn't soften it, she owned it, and she continued breaking protocol in ways that felt small but carried enormous weight. The Queen was known for gloves and hats during public engagements. Diana abandoned both. She wanted direct contact. She wanted to hold hands. She wanted to touch people when she met them. She stopped wearing hats because, as she explained, you can't cuddle a child in a hat. That instinct led to one of the most powerful moments of her life. In 1987, at the height of the AIDS epidemic, Diana shook hands with an AIDS patient in London. No gloves, no hesitation. At a time when fear dominated headlines and people believed they could catch the disease through touch, Diana sent a message with a single gesture. Human connection matters. Compassion matters. Her brother later explained that what mattered that day was making it clear that people could live in community with those who were suffering and that they had a responsibility to help. Years later, her sons carried that mission forward, with Prince Harry taking an HIV test publicly alongside Rihanna in 2017, continuing the work their mother had started decades earlier. Diana also refused to hide her own struggles. In 1992, Andrew Morton published Diana, Her True Story, revealing that the princess had been living with bulimia. In a later BBC interview, Diana explained that the eating disorder was a symptom of what was happening inside her marriage. She didn't wrap it in royal language, she told it plainly. Her sons would later follow that same path, speaking openly about mental health and pushing to normalize conversations that royal families once buried in silence. Step by step, Diana rewrote the rules. She worked before marriage. She chose her own ring. She rewrote her vows. She raised her children differently. She touched the untouchable, and she told uncomfortable truths. Princess Diana didn't just wear the crown. She quietly redefined what it meant to wear one. Every boundary she crossed became a doorway for the royals who came after her, proving that sometimes the most powerful rebellions aren't loud at all. They happen in choices, in compassion, in refusing to disappear inside tradition. And that is how Diana changed the monarchy from the inside out. Who inherited Princess Diana's fortune? When Princess Diana died in 1997, she was no longer officially a part of the royal family. But that didn't mean she left without a fight. Behind the flowers, the global mourning, and the image of two young boys walking behind their mother's coffin, Diana left something else behind. A complicated estate, a controversial will, and a financial legacy that would change the rest of her sons' lives. On the surface, it looked simple. Her two children, Prince William and Prince Harry, were the obvious heirs. But actually, receiving Diana's inheritance turned out to be anything but straightforward. Her will had been written back in 1993, during her separation from King Charles III. At the time, Diana had recently inherited £5 million British pounds from her father, and that money formed the foundation of the document. She never updated the will after her divorce settlement in 1996. 1 year later, she was gone. For someone of Diana's stature, you might assume everything was carefully structured and sealed behind palace walls. It wasn't. Royal historian Marlene Koenig later explained that Diana's will was described by some as unimaginative, standard, and even sloppy. And because Diana was no longer a working royal, it wasn't kept private. Her finances became public record. By the time of her death in August 1997, Diana's net worth stood at more than £21 million, roughly $31.5 million at the time. That figure included cash, investments, jewelry, clothing, and the £16 million she had received from Charles in their divorce settlement. But not all of that flowed cleanly to her sons. William and Harry were listed as the primary beneficiaries, and they did receive the bulk of Diana's financial assets. But once taxes and fees were applied, nearly half of their inheritance disappeared. Here's where it gets complicated. Under UK law, Charles had the legal right to reclaim the £16 million from Diana's divorce settlement because she died within a year of receiving it. If he had exercised that option, William and Harry would only have been taxed on the £5 million Diana inherited from her father. Charles could then have reinvested the larger sum separately for his sons. He didn't. Instead, he was advised to leave the money inside Diana's estate and allow it to be taxed. The result was millions lost before William and Harry ever gained access to their inheritance. Even then, they weren't handed everything outright. Alongside the main estate, a discretionary fund was created for the princes and their future families. About £100,000 went into that fund, and the interest continues to benefit them over time. Now that both brothers are married, their wives, Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle, are also able to draw from it. But Diana had left something else behind. The day after signing her will, she wrote a private letter of wishes. It wasn't legally binding, but it revealed what she truly wanted. In it, Diana asked that 75% of her jewelry and personal possessions, referred to in the UK as chattels, be divided evenly between William and Harry. She also expressed hope that their future wives would one day wear her jewelry. That part became reality. William proposed to Kate with Diana's sapphire engagement ring. Kate has since worn Diana's tiara and sapphire earrings. Meghan later appeared wearing Diana's diamond Cartier bracelet during her interview with Oprah Winfrey. But Diana's letter went further. She asked that the remaining 25% of her personal property be given to her 17 godchildren. That never happened. Because the letter wasn't part of the formal will, it carried no legal weight. The executors of Diana's estate, including her mother and eldest sister, chose to ignore that request. Instead of receiving meaningful keepsakes, the godchildren were left with what some later described as hollow mementos: hunting figurines, crockery, and coffee service items. Diana had tried to provide for everyone, but only her sons truly benefited. After the jewelry was distributed and the discretionary fund established, the rest of Diana's estate was placed into a trust known as the residuary estate. Diana's original intention was clear. William and Harry would inherit it when they turned 25. That didn't happen either. The executors applied for a legal variation known as the arrangement, delaying full access by 5 years. The brothers could receive interest from the trust at 25, but the principal remained locked away until they turned 30. By the time they finally gained control, each son received about £10 million. Some of Diana's most symbolic belongings followed that same timeline. Her wedding dress, designed by David and Elizabeth Emanuel and famous for its dramatic 25-foot train, wasn't handed to William and Harry right away. For years, the gown belonged to Diana's brother, Charles Spencer. Part of each year it was displayed at Althorp, and the rest of the time it traveled the world on loan to museums and exhibitions, raising money for charity. On Harry's 30th birthday in September 2014, the silk gown finally passed into the hands of Diana's sons. In 2021, it appeared at Kensington Palace as part of a royal fashion exhibition. Then, there were the keepsakes. After Diana's death, each brother was allowed to choose one personal item from her belongings at Kensington Palace. William chose Diana's Cartier Tank Française watch, a gold timepiece his grandfather had given her. After her divorce, Diana wore it constantly, and William believed his mother would want him to have it. Harry chose the sapphire and diamond engagement ring Charles had bought for Diana in 1981. But the brothers made a pact. Whoever married first would use the ring. When William prepared to propose to Kate, Harry handed it over without hesitation. Harry honored his mother another way. When he designed Meghan's engagement ring, he placed 2 diamonds from Diana's personal collection on either side of the center stone, her presence woven quietly into their futures. Many people assume William and Harry inherited Althorp, Diana's childhood home and final resting place. They didn't. Althorp is the ancestral seat of the Spencer family, not royal property. It will pass to Diana's nephew, Louis Spencer, not to her sons. Diana's money went to William and Harry. Her home did not. Today, their financial paths look very different. Although they received equal inheritances from their mother, William's net worth now far surpasses Harry's, largely because of his future role as king. William's wealth is estimated at over $1 billion, while Harry's sits closer to $60 million. Diana never accounted for that imbalance in her will. To compensate, Charles quietly set up a separate trust for Harry. Diana's great-grandmother, the Queen Mother, did the same. Harry received payments at 21 and again at 40. That inheritance gave Harry something else too: freedom. In his 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Harry revealed that Diana's money helped him and Meghan step away from royal duties and rebuild their lives in the United States. Even in death, Diana was still protecting her youngest son, still creating exits. Princess Diana didn't just leave behind money. She left leverage, and in the end, that may have been her most powerful move of all. What are your thoughts on Princess Diana? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.